coming in and out, but I think his audio is still fine. So a little bit of introduction first. Fred Greene, Vice President of Product Management.
Yes.
So maybe Fred, you can actually start off by telling us about yourself. What do you do at Martin?
Okay, sure. I joined Martin in 2004, actually. Before that, I worked at Gibson Guitar. So I came to Martin, and for the first 13 years I was there, I was in charge of the factory, in charge of building all the guitars. Built up the custom shop, was the person who started up the custom shop at Martin Guitar. And then in the last 3 years, they put me in charge of, luckily, custom and research and design and design in general and all the product management. So I get to decide what guitars we're making and what they're going to look like. I got the fun job now. I got the coolest job in the whole factory.
So
great.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
You know, straight out of college, I was playing in a rock and roll band out of college. I actually went to school for journalism. I thought I was going to be a writer at one time.
Okay.
But I liked chasing girls too much and playing guitar, so that kind of got in the way.
I can't say. I almost said same.
So do we. Come on.
No.
We've been there.
Not me. Let me in the past.
Everybody. That's why we play guitar. Right?
That's right.
That's how I got married.
That's how we can be chick magnets, right?
That's right. I figured I was not a good-looking guy, so I said, if Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones can do it, I can do
it. Yeah, why not, right?
I'm sitting in my office right now.
Ooh. So that's your office in the background.
I thought that's your house.
No, this is my office.
That is so cool. I would love to have an office like that. How do you work?
I have a drum set in the corner, and I've probably got all kinds of electric guitars and acoustic guitars.
That's a studio. That's not an office. That's a playroom.
It is a playroom. You're right.
Yeah, I actually did a little bit of a background check on you, Fred. I went to your LinkedIn. And I saw like, wow, you have a ton of years of experience in the guitar business. But what caught my interest was you started off as a janitor at Gibson?
Yes, that's true.
Serious?
When I graduated from school, I was looking for I was actually working as a reporter at a small paper. And I saw that Gibson had run an ad in the paper for somebody to work in a guitar factory. And I said, hey, this is a great job for a guy who wants to play in a rock and roll band. I said, maybe I can get my guitars half price or something. So I applied, and they said, I'm sorry, we filled all the positions. We only have one job available, and we don't think you will want it. And I says, well, try me. Maybe I will. And they said, we need someone to sweep the floors and clean the bathrooms. And
consider it done.
I said, why not? I'll do it.
I'll do it too.
Yeah. And before you know it, after a year, I was working at the factory building guitars. And then after 5 years, I was running the factory. And then after a few more years, I was chief operating officer. So it moved really, really quickly. And I learned a lot in a very short period of time. And when I graduated from school, it was an exciting time. The 1990s, working for Gibson Guitar, with Slash and Guns N' Roses. It was a very exciting time to be part of the business.
The rock and roll days, yes.
It was very rock and roll. It was a little bit of a cowboy Wild West at Gibson Guitar in those days. There was a lot of partying that was going on at the factory. It was a little crazy, but it was fun. And I learned a lot. But when I saw the job become available for Martin, I told my wife, I says, that's the job. I said, those guys, they build the best guitars. That's where I need to go and really learn how to build acoustics as opposed to just electrics. And I put my name in, and I was lucky enough that Chris Martin liked me and hired me to run his factory. It was a real honor to be able to come and see how Martin does things, which is very different than how Gibson builds guitars. It's a completely different philosophy. So it was a good learning experience.
Is it as rock and roll?
No.
So your wife must be a lot happier, right?
She's much happier. She is.
So what are some of the more iconic creations of Martin model that you have created that you were behind? They were, you had a free play, right? I want this guitar to be like that. So what are some of the more popular model that you have actually created?
Well, I've worked with a lot of the artists on their personal guitars. So I worked directly with John Mayer, Ed Sheeran.
Wow.
Some Eric Clapton models.
Wow. These are our three most popular, most sought after models here, and Elvin here is a big John Mayer fan.
Yeah.
All right. When he demos his guitar to his customer, his first song will always be one of the Mayer songs.
Yeah,
that's
probably one of those.
Well, John's a super nice guy that we've gotten to be good friends. So when he comes through and plays, I will go visit and sit with him and talk. And he'll show me whatever new guitar he's purchased, whatever piece. But he's a super nice guy, and we keep in touch on email and phone calls on a regular basis. And man, what an incredible guitar player!
Can you bring him down here? Can you bring him down here? I would love to see him.
I would love to. That would be fantastic.
Fred, you can let him know his fans in Singapore are crazy about him.
Yeah, so many of my guys here are all playing his songs.
And a lot of our customers who come in to try guitars, a lot of times they're just playing all his songs.
Well, I promise you this. I will, when you send me a link to this, I will send it to him and I will tell him that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he will appreciate it.
Already sent to you. All right. Let's just briefly touch on something that it's affecting everyone here. Yeah. The COVID-19 situation. How has it affected you guys over there?
Pretty severely. We were closed probably for 6 or 7 weeks, where we produced no guitars. The factory was completely closed. That goes for both the factory in the United States and then our factory in Mexico that produces the X series and our strings. Both factories were shut down. We've been back producing for the last 4 weeks. So, but it's a big change because now everyone has to wear face masks while they work, and they have to have their temperature checked when they come into the factory every day. As we were talking earlier before we went live, only the people who touch guitars, the actual factory workers, are allowed in. Everyone else, if you're a support personnel or an office worker, they're all working from home. So if you're just working on the computer or touching paper, stay home. Everybody else is in the factory. But things are starting to loosen up a little bit. We basically had no more guitars left in inventory. So everybody had sold everything. It was all gone. So we have to hurry up and get some guitars built. And it changed our new product schedules quite a bit, because we had a lot of new prototypes and things like that were in development, and we had to just stop. And so that's put everything behind schedule.
Right.
It's a big deal.
Right.
And you mind, I'll mention this, because sometimes, all right, we'll give you a little guitar builder inside stuff here.
Yeah, great.
The way it works, because it's very different when you're a consumer versus actually working in the industry. Some of the things people don't think about is the real issues are our suppliers, the people who make our tuning machines, people who make the electronics, the people who make the frets.
Right.
We don't build those pieces in-house. And they're all on different schedules now, and they all have different levels of impact from COVID. So trying to get all the supply chain timed up and trying to figure out what we can and what we can't produce starts to dictate how the schedule within the factory works and what we can get finished and not finished. So things are very, very uncertain in terms of scheduling of guitars and what's going to be built and how it's going to be delivered out to consumers. So you may see some shortages on certain models, and it's not because we don't want to make them, it's because maybe there's a supply issue with those particular products.
If you're going to introduce the brand to someone who just picked up the guitar, how would you actually introduce Martin Guitar to someone who is so new?
I think the most simple way to introduce it is if you ask someone to close their eyes and imagine an acoustic guitar in their head, just imagine that image. The image that you're imagining is what Martin guitar invented. That image, the look of a modern acoustic guitar today has not existed forever. That is an image that Martin actually invented, that shape, that look. It comes from a specific person. Back in the old days, prior to Martin, 1833, and even in Martin's earliest time frames, acoustic guitars were very, very small. They sort of look like the shape of peanut, right?
Those are the parlor guitars,
parlors,
right?
right?
Smallest,
Little smaller guitars. That's sort of what existed, because acoustic guitars were always played as a solo instrument.
Right.
Just one person, no band. And then as CF the First started to grow as a builder and as a designer, he transitioned from that early European German Stauffer style guitar. He started to get more influence from the Spanish builders.
Right.
So the guitars got a little bit bigger, and then he said, "Hey, I want to make the guitars sound a little bit bigger." And all the early guitars, if you remember, had different kinds of bracing patterns, like fan bracing and all kinds of weird ladder bracing and strange things, because all the guitars were essentially gut or nylon string instruments. At some point, he ends up coming across the idea of using X bracing. Sorry.
Is that a tree bell again?
Is that lunchtime?
I apologize.
No.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's all right.
He came across the idea of using X bracing on the top for a guitar, and that really changed the way the guitar sounded. And then moving into the early 20th century, guitars were actually being used with other instruments, and they needed more volume to be able to compete with banjos or mandolins or whatever else was being played. So the guitars got bigger, and as they got bigger, that X bracing really started to come into its own. And then suddenly somebody says, you know what? I think we can make strings out of steel. And then that changed everything. And at that moment, the Martin guitar was truly born, and that's in the dreadnought size. So the guitar that you see behind you guys right now, right in the center top, that's what people think about when they think of an acoustic guitar. And that's something that Martin actually invented. Everything, the shape, the peg head, the way the pick guard is done, the bridge, where the sound hole is, all of that is a Martin invention. And I think people take that for granted, thinking that's just the way it's always been. But it's not the way it's always been. Somebody had to do it first, and Martin Guitar did it first. So that's the way I introduced the brand to everyone.
That's very, very insightful. I think.